So it's been one of those weeks. This was originally supposed to be two videos. One where I make over this little table that I got from the trash, as one does, and another one where I talk about the thing that is the title of this video. But then this little table, which I assumed would be a pretty quick fix, gave me way more trouble than I expected, and I essentially ended up doing the opposite of a furniture flip. I took something that was in a certain condition and I made it worse. So, for the sake of total transparency and showing that not all projects go according to plan all of the time, especially on this channel, you now get to watch me get absolutely humiliated by a three-legged little metal structure while I share some info on repurposed wood. Enjoy, you sadist! I decided to make this video because YouTube has been recommending reclaimed pallet projects to me for at least a couple of months. I guess the algorithm decided that I must love trash, and I mean, it's not wrong. But from watching these videos, I saw a lot of people talk about choosing the right pallet based on the kind of wood that it's made out of and the condition that the wood is in. But not all of the creators talk about the treatment process that the pallets have to go through before they are approved for use. And this treatment process is important because they're not all created equal, and some are way safer than others. So I want to give you a little bit of a rundown on this so that you have all the information for next time you're deciding if tearing a pallet apart is even worth your time. It all starts with a little symbol. Next time you're looking for pallets, check on the side and you might see something like this. This layout is standard, so if you see something, it will probably look very similar to this one. On the left here, you have this little tree-looking thing with the letters IPPC, or at least what the letters used to be before they got worn off. But they stand for International Plant Protection Convention. And the purpose of this convention is to prevent the spread of pests from one country to another as these pallets get transported around the world. This is huge because without it, we would introduce invasive species to countries where they don't belong, and this generally tends to wreak havoc on the environment. Then on the right here, we have the country code. CA, in this case, for Canada, but you can also see US for US, or GB for Great Britain. The most important bit here is at the bottom. This indicates what kind of treatment the pallet went through in order to be approved for use by the IPPC. Here, we have HT. HT stands for heat treated, and this means that once the pallets were made, they used this process of applying heat for an extended period of time to kill off any pests that might be living inside it. Nowadays, this method is the most common way of treating pallets, and it's pretty safe because nothing weird is being done or added to the wood. It's just literally a big oven. It's a similar case for pallets that are marked with a KD, which stands for Kiln Dried. I've personally never seen these in the wild, but I know that they exist, so I just want to throw them out there. The other option that you might come across is this one. I found this pallet while I was walking home about 2 weeks ago, and if you look at the symbol, you can see a similar layout, except at the bottom, it has this MB. Now, MB stands for Methyl Bromide, or it can also be called bromomethane. And this is a gas that is commonly used for pest control. The problem with methyl bromide is that it is ozone depleting, highly toxic, and during the process of application to the wooden pallets, it has caused both environmental issues and health problems for the workers that do these applications. Because of all these reasons, this process has been mostly phased out in about 2010, because I guess they realized just how damaging this chemical is, and while I don't want to say that it's not applied at all anymore, I know that for the most part, all the new pallets that are being made are now either heat or kiln treated. However, even though this method isn't as common anymore, because nobody really throws out new pallets, there's a solid chance that you'll still come across plenty of old MB ones, so something to keep an eye out on. So now that I told you all of this scary stuff about MB pallets, it's easy to make a conclusion that you just need to stay away from them. But personally, I'm not a huge fan of fear-mongering and painting things out to be so black and white. As much as the algorithm loves these kinds of videos where I can make definitive statements and scare everybody into doing one thing, things in the real world very seldom work like that. Since methyl bromide is a gas, the people who work with these chemicals are the ones who are at the highest risk. And the jury is kind of still out on how long these dangerous gases linger on the pallet once the fumigation process is over. A creator that I watched called Daner made a video about this, and I'll put this link at the bottom. And he actually had a conversation with someone who used to work as the person that sprays the pallets with MB. And this person claimed that during his training, he learned that the gas evaporates so quickly that if you're not there to inhale it as it's being applied, then it won't linger on the pallet long enough for anybody else who comes into contact with it to have any negative effects. And this is a compelling argument because gases do evaporate really quickly in an open area, so this isn't a far-fetched statement. It makes sense. So, given all this information, what is the conclusion? Should you absolutely avoid these pallets, or are they okay to use? Well, the answer is, I can't make the decision for you. Some things in woodworking are definite, and I'll stand firmly behind them as though they are the rules that we should never break. Like, for example, always wear eye protection when working with power tools, never look away from a spinning blade, and never apply finishes with high VOCs in non-ventilated areas or without a respirator. But then, there are other topics where there isn't a so cut and dry answer, and you can find compelling information for either case. And that's kind of the situation here. You can find experts that say that while these pesticides are toxic and are extremely harmful, they are only toxic and harmful during the application process for the people who are applying them. And once they do evaporate, they no longer pose a danger to people who come into contact with the wood. Others, however, say that because the pesticides are meant to prevent infestation even deep within the wood, then these chemicals penetrate all the way to the core, and from there it's a lot harder for them to evaporate like they would from the surface. So if you were to start cutting and sanding these pellets, you would be re-releasing the methyl bromide that remains in the center. In other words, these pellets are only safe as long as you don't disturb them. I've also heard some people say that they take these claims that the companies make about the safety of their processes with a grain of salt because it's not uncommon for them to try and downplay the negative effects for their own benefit, which is a fair concern. For those of you who are wondering why I'm making this video if my conclusion is going to be so open-ended like this, well, the reason is I think that everyone should be able to make their own informed decisions. And that's not something that you can do if you're not even aware that there is a decision that needs to be made. I shared all of the information that I think is important, and now that you have it, you can not only decide, but you can also look into it further on your own from resources that you deem trustworthy so that you can make the best call for yourself. Never make a decision based on what some douchebag on YouTube tells you to do. And if you do happen to be curious where I stand on this, well, I personally tend to err on the side of, it's just not worth it. Material is expensive, so I get the appeal of salvaging everything. But if you already don't mind putting in the effort to repurpose a crappy piece of wood, like, say, a pallet, then you're not that limited to where you can get material, so you don't have to take the risk. There are so many pallets that are safer and so many other kinds of thrown-out wood that there's just no need for the gamble. And this is coming from me. For those of you who have watched my channel for a while and have seen my material stash, you know that that's saying a lot. I will save literally anything. I am especially cautious because I know that a lot of people who use these MB pallets use them to make bed frames, dining room tables, and other things that they keep around the house, where there's less of an opportunity for them to keep airing out these gases if they need to. I would personally just rather buy new material than take on that risk. But, again, That's just me and what I decided is best from the information that I was made aware of. The ball is in your court now, so please go forth and research, and then let me know what you decide. Well, there we go. I kind of went into fixing up this little table without a plan and wanted to adjust my approach as things unfolded, because that's more fun. Usually that works out for me, but this time it really didn't. I'm not giving up though. I'll step away from it for a little bit, rethink how I want to do this, and then circle right back. I know that this may not be the most interesting content, but I think that the internet is really able to mess with our perception of things, and I know that, at least for me, it has made me believe that everyone else who makes things is always successful, and I'm the only one who struggles and fails. Like, realistically, I know that's not the case, but my brain believes it anyways, and it's so hard to break out of it. So I wanted to share this so that you know that for every success that I have at the shop, I have had at least twice as many, if not more, failures. Some that even set me back so much further that I would have been better off just not doing anything at all. But that's just the reality of, honestly, anything that's worth doing. So I'm okay with the process, and you should be too. All right, that's all. Stay tuned. I'll end up circling back to this eventually, and hopefully one day it'll be a cute little table that I can keep on my porch. But until then, I'll see you guys later. Bye.